Hello, this is Dashcam Owners Australia, and today we have another dashcam review for you. Today we're taking a look at the Mini 0803 from Gearbest.com. I'll have a link for them in the description. You may recall that I have reviewed this camera before, but they have since updated it, and I'll go into depth later about that. Alright, so we'll start off by taking a look at the box here. Just pause at any point if you'd like to have a look at some of these specs. We'll cover all the corners here. As you can see, I have the version with the internal memory, which is meant to be memory, and the GPS tracker. Here is everything you get in the box. As you can see, there's a USB cable for connecting the camera to your computer. There's the charger, the adhesive mount that connects the camera to the windscreen. That is either GPS or non-GPS enabled. The camera, a spare adhesive mount, and the instruction leaflet. Now we'll take a look at the different angles on the camera. Here's your front-on view. As you can see, nice sleek camera. You've got your microphone and your speaker at the front there with the lens, and only a little white piece of text there. Here's the rear view, simple 3-button and your screen. Very simple to navigate system on this. Your top view, where you can either plug in your charger or connect it to your computer. The bottom view, which is your HDMI out, which doesn't come with a cable, and your SD card. The side view, just the power button. Now we'll take a look at it with the actual mount on top. You can see, there's your mount. Underneath the actual mount, it's just grey adhesive tape, so it doesn't stand out too much. There it is again. Still fairly small, even with the mount on this camera. And as you'll see here, it's about the size of a standard business card. And all in black, so it is very subtle if you're after a small camera that doesn't stand out. Here it is, just quickly installed into the vehicle that I was testing it with. I ran all the cables under the trim apart from that, and there you go from the front view. This is probably the perfect camera to use if you want something that's small and out of the way and won't distract you while you're driving. It sits behind the mirror very nicely in most vehicles. Now we'll just quickly run through all the different menu and options on this camera so you can see all the different settings. Firstly, we're going to take a look at the resolutions. We've got 1296, 1080 and 720p, all available in 30 frames per second. I'm going to be using 1296p for my testing. Now the quality modes, we have Superfine, Fine, Normal. I'm going to be using Superfine in my footage. AE meter mode, Center, Spot, and I will be using Center. Now WDR is Wide Dynamic Range. I'm of course running it on. That's Lane Departure Warning System, which I'm not using. I don't really have a use for it. And there's just your calibration menu for that. No idea whatsoever how to set that up, but I'm sure it's in the instruction leaflet. Now the flicker mode, I've got it set to auto, but it's 50 and 60 Hz. Might as well leave it on auto. White balance, again, you can have a few different options there. I've just got it set to automatic as well. Okay, so the different options there for exposure, I've just got it set to 0. The recycle, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, that's how long the clips are. I've got it set to 1 minute clips. Motion detection, I've got it set to off, but you can run motion detection with this camera, so it is useful for parking mode. Here's just your date and time. You can set it here, but if you do have the GPS camera as well, it will pull it through the GPS. Now your screen on and off modes there, or your power off, sorry. And here's your screen options. You can have a driver stamp on this, and also your date time stamp. Your GPS stamp will come through the footage and the included programming that comes with this camera. That's just your option to set the driver number. And here you can set the G-sensor calibration. I personally don't like G-sensor functions much. I've got it turned off. GPS on and off, I've got it set to on. And the velocity units, 2 kilometers per hour. You can reset it to your default settings, format the memory card, and because this version has an inbuilt memory, you can choose whether it's on the outer SD card or inbuilt memory. And there's the firmware, just in case you are wondering. Alright, now we'll get stuck into some of the footage that I've recorded. As you can see now, just leaving a car park, the camera's very quick to adjust to different lighting. And it's just 8:17 in the morning here, so a little bit cloudy, but the footage is coming out very nicely. One thing I should point out with this camera is it records in 1296p, and as my editing program only outputs in 1080p, you'll actually be seeing it in lesser quality than it really is. What I'll just do now is I've joined two clips together here and they're about to transition over, so we'll see if there's any loss of footage between clips. There you go, it's seamless recording. Nothing's lost between the film clips there. What I'm going to do now is just change over to some night footage and we'll show you what this camera does at night with its wide dynamic range. Alrighty, here we are just after 7 at night in a main street of a suburb. We've got a lot of lights from shops and stuff, and as you can see it's doing a very good job of picking up all the lights, and it's also very clear. You can clearly make out a lot of the businesses, the details on signage, so it's doing a very nice job with its wide dynamic range. As you'll see with some of the cars that you drive past, you can make up the license plates fairly clearly. It's doing a very nice job for the camera, considering it is what you'd probably say is a lower to middle range camera. Now, to give a bit of variation with the recordings, I'll show you a clip of a darker area now, so streets with just basic street lights and no shops or anything around, and we'll cut to that and see what it looks like. Alright, here we go. Just a more darker side street. You've only got basic street lights, but as you can see it still does an alright job. The footage is a bit darker and a bit grainier, but as you see as we pull up behind this car, you can still make out the license plate and even the badging on the car, so it's doing a pretty decent job at night. Now, as I briefly mentioned earlier, this is a slightly updated version of this camera. Not much has changed, but with some of the original cameras they were having issues with overheating. Now, with this version that is on Gearbest, they have added a better heat sink for better heat dissipation, which I'm sure will come in handy, especially with the summer weather coming up in Australia. I haven't heard a lot of complaints yet from people that own the older models, but since they've come out we haven't really had the hot summer weather, so it'll be interesting to see how they go. Now, overall with this camera I'm pretty impressed. It does a really good job for the price. It's a lot of bang in a small package. So if you're after a small camera for under the $120 mark, this is probably going to be the camera for you. You really cannot beat the value for money with this camera. I would go as far as saying this is the best mini size camera with a screen sub $120. You really can't beat what you're getting in this package. Now, that being said, it's not perfect. I'm not a big fan of the way the mount works on this camera. It does still seem a bit flimsy. There's a bit of movement when you plug the camera in. I have seen a cheap fix to fix that, where you've got to take apart the mount a little bit, but overall I think if you're after a relatively cheap camera and you don't need something big and flashy, you just want something that you can install and forget, this is probably going to be the camera for you. Alright, be sure to check out the link in the description below for the Gearbest website. You can order it from them, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you more of these reviews in the future. Thank you very much. This is Dashcam Owners Australia signing out.